Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here this afternoon on this Thursday, the 11th of June, 2020. Listen, guys, seriously, I'm watching the stock market today. It's cascading downwards like Niagara Falls. Okay? We're in a situation where the whole world has created so much credit, and we've been running on a credit system for years. They have quite literally created derivatives products, and an awful lot of these derivatives products are basically like, it's almost like they're betting, but in actuality it's based a lot on interest rates and stuff like that. The thing about it is they've created like 1 quadrillion. That's 1,000 trillion. That's let's see, what that would be, $1,000,000,000,000 dollars worth of derivatives products in the system. Also, what they've done is they've done cross currents. They've built, basically they've taken and they've built an entire financial paper system where an awful lot of the underlying assets that they use as a derivative has been sold multiple times. There's no other way of putting it. Basically, it's almost the same strategy as the old days. He used to talk about somebody who would sell Brooklyn Bridge, as if he owned it, Here, come on, show him the bridge, you want to buy the bridge? Basically, that's what they've been doing within the financial system. They've been actually selling something that doesn't exist. They've done this tremendously with the paper and paper gold and paper silver markets. Tremendously. Gold is leveraged, I think, like 400 to 1. It means, for each person that owns a real ounce of gold out there, or for every ounce of real gold that actually exists, there's like 400 paper contracts that say, hey, you own this ounce of gold, that people actually have in their portfolios. But it's supposed to represent the underlying asset, but in actuality, the underlying asset doesn't exist. Maybe it's still in the ground, but I mean, they've done ridiculous things like this all the way through the financial system, and they've over-leveraged the system with credit, massive amounts of credit. And now it looks like deflation is, the Fed's been pumping astronomical amounts of money in to try to keep this whole thing from deflating and basically all the bubbles from popping. But it looks like now it's all starting to pop anyway. So what are they going to do? Pump more money in? Yes, that's what they're going to do. They're going to have to at some particular point. They've put basically a bar in underneath the stock market where they don't want to let it go below 18,000 because they know at a certain point, if they let this thing go too far, then they can't restore it. It'll freeze. What'll happen is it causes what's called a chain reaction. Now, you've heard about that, oftentimes in movies, about some sort of a nuclear reactor or something like that goes into critical mass, and then it has a chain reaction, and then it melts down or whatever. Well, the financial system's the same way. At a certain point, the whole thing could actually melt down and freeze. Just like the machine you have your printer for your computer, When the paper jams. Well, the main aspect of our financial system is all paper assets that aren't even on paper anymore. They're digits in a computer. And they transfer these very quickly through the computer lines. Millions and thousands of millions of transactions take place daily across they call it transactions per second, or TPSs. Quite literally, there's hundreds of thousands, millions of these transactions of digital money moving back and forth in the system every day. If the whole thing jams and freezes, then the computer then can't sort it out. Who owns what? Basically. The whole thing could just freeze. And there's no system in there that, if the whole system freezes that way, all of that money that wasn't money at all, that was all just basically credit anyway, would just suddenly vanish. Everything would lock up, and that means nobody could transfer any money. Basically what it means for the common person out there in this sort of a credit freeze that would happen, well, we've already actually experienced a credit freeze, but it's an interbanking credit freeze. That's what the repo thing was all about that we went through for a number of months, and we're still going through. In the repo window and the repo facility, that was a credit freeze within the banking system. Banks didn't want to do interbank lending between each other. That was a warning sign. But the credit freeze I'm talking about is a much more extensive, where they just basically lock down everything. In other words, your bank account doesn't work, your credit cards don't work, any electronic cash that you've been using for a transfer, your PayPal account doesn't work, nothing works for sending money anywhere or getting money if it's electronic. That's the kind of freeze I'm talking about. And we are actually quite literally in danger of that happening. If that were to happen, the only money that would actually be money then at that point would be cash, because it's real, it's in your hand, it's tangible, and they can't freeze it. If you've got a $5 bill in your hand, they can't come and say, okay, that's we freeze it. You can't use it to spend. Sure, you can use it to spend, because this is the old-fashioned way we used to do money. It's still out there, the old-fashioned way we used to send money around, we used to do transactions, is still there in the form of cash and change. The change you got in your kid's piggy bank, or maybe you got a piggy bank, but that's real money, exists in the real world. So does real physical gold and silver. And of course, the auxiliary system that's been set up since 2009 till now, which is the cryptocurrency system, wouldn't be impacted by this whatsoever, or very little, because it would only be affecting fiat currencies, would be what would be frozen. So basically the whole system would be frozen. No fiat that's in the system, in other words being transferred electronically, would work. And suddenly the only money that would be left is cryptocurrencies, real gold and silver, copper, change, what you got in your piggy bank, and the cash you got in your pocket, whatever cash you got. Most people out there, the vast majority of people out there, would be caught with their pants down in this, because they don't have. They might have a little bit of change hanging around the house, and they might have a few dollars here and there just for emergency funds, but it represents a very small amount of money. Well, if all this other electronic money suddenly ceases to exist and ceases to function, you've eliminated 99% of the money then at that point that we use on a day-to-day basis. Gone. Poof. Then the little bit of money that's left would suddenly seem to me to be worth far more than it was the day before it happened. If you're following what I'm saying. In other words, the world has to have a way of exchanging value. In other words, money. We have to have a way of transferring goods and services. The world just can't stop. Okay, the electronic system can suddenly stop like that, but we all keep living the next day. We're all still alive. Our bellies are still hungry. We still need to do business. We still need to exchange. We still have to have some form of money. And suddenly, if all of our electronic money just don't work, and the system can't get it unfrozen because they don't know how, it just basically doesn't exist anymore, what will we do? Well, the little bit of money that would be left over suddenly would be worth an awful lot more, I would think. First off, right off of the get-go, would we turn to cryptocurrencies to start making transactions, or just exactly what would happen? Because I can see a danger of this quite literally happening, where the financial system just basically locks up. Could the central banks unlock it? Maybe using massive amounts of money? I don't know. We've never been in a situation like this before, and I'm only this discussion I'm having right now is only theoretical for now because the system hasn't frozen up. But in my mind, I can see the potential for it to actually happen because of the over leverage in the credit markets and the amount of banks that could systematically fail suddenly, and also the amount of transactions that would have to go through. Like if you get a big failing bank, like say if Deutsche Bank were to go down, now I think that they're going to support Deutsche Bank to the very end right now at this point. But say a bank suddenly went down, and then it carried another bank down with it, which carried another bank down with it, which carried another bank down with it, and suddenly all those transactions are flying through the system, which would be deflationary transactions that would require people to liquidate or basically margin call on almost everything. And suddenly this compounds and runs through the system at lightning speed. If there's not enough money to fill the gap, the system could just lock up. You know? And we see this kind of effect in European countries where one country that doesn't have any money and has already borrowed money from the European Union will lend money to a different country that doesn't have any money either. You know? In other words, France will bail out Italy, but France is already in debt. You know, this kind of stuff. And when it all unravels, if it unravels suddenly, could the system actually lock up where nobody knows who owns what? Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening to this show. We're moving into weird times. I mean, it's getting weird out there. You know, I watched the stock market today. It's horrendous. Let me just take a quick peek at it and tell you guys what we're at right now. We're at 1,836 points. Refresh the 1,826 points down today in one day. 6.77% of the entire market lost in one day. Catch you guys in the next show. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.